All right, good afternoon, Brutal Planet listeners. This is Joey Richoff here. I've been listening to the band Sevendust for nearly 25 years. They have released nearly 40 singles and have been nominated for a Grammy. Their new album, Blood and Stone, releases this Friday, October 23rd. And this afternoon, I have the privilege of interviewing John Connelly. Thank you for being willing to share with us, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. I've been better, actually. I don't like starting out interviews talking about the weather, but up here in Minnesota, we are in the middle of a snowstorm. So
yeah, I guess you guys are, huh?
I'm sure it's not so bad down in Florida, huh?
No. It's actually pretty nice out.
Nice and sunny.
Yeah.
So 2020 has been a difficult year for all of us. How have you been managing through the pandemic?
Well, other than the fact that I don't think anybody could have predicted that this was going to be going on this year.
Yeah.
It was kind of an interesting thing because we finished the record late. I guess it was November, December last year when we finally finished the mixing and mastering of the record. So then we knew we were going to be putting together artwork and coming up with a release strategy for this year. The whole front half of the year, I was basically going to use to work on write material for the next projected record, just because I knew that we were going to have time off before we hit the road.
Awesome. So I was going to ask you about that anyways, because I love
it.
Yeah, so.
I figured while I was home that I would, I was like, okay, March and April, let me get most of the writing done just so that I don't have a lot of work to do when we actually decide to go in the studio. And, right on schedule, here comes this pandemic, and I was like, okay, so this is going to be interesting, because normally when I write at home, I can kind of sing at my own leisure. Jordan's at school, Lori's out at work, and now all of a sudden everyone's in the house. Yeah. So, between the virtual schooling and, Lori doing work at home and me doing work at home, it was just kind of like, all right, everybody stay out of each other's way, try to be as supportive as possible, but at the same time, it's like I was already kind of planning on locking myself into the studio and not coming out until the record was written, but now I was kind of like, all right, well, there's really nothing else to do. So for me, I think the timing on it was kind of strange because it was just something that I was planning on doing anyways, but it just made it a little bit different, a little bit interesting. When you decide to go and fire up the vocal mic and you want to cut vocals, and my daughter's doing percussion lessons downstairs. It's like right.
Yeah, we have four young kids in our house, so I know the struggle.
So oh yeah. I think that was the biggest thing, is those first couple of weeks just trying to, just coming to. The dogs were looking at us like, "Are you guys ever going to leave?" They're just like, "This is crazy. You guys nobody's leaving the house. Like, what is going on here?" But
have you had a chance to get out and do fun stuff? Like, I know you're a big biker and stuff, right?
Sure. The running and the swimming and the biking and stuff like that was, easy enough to do up until they closed all the state parks. And once they closed the state parks, it was like, oh man, this is going to be kind of weird.
Did they do that down by you?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they shut all the parks down. They shut all the pools down, all the parks down. So
wow.
Me and all the triathletes in our group are doing dry land swim sessions, which was, the weirdest thing in the world, how you try to simulate the swim and stuff like that. But it was just kind of an odd year of just trying to make the best out of a weird situation, But it wasn't unique to us. Everybody.
Yeah,
has been affected by this one way, shape, form, or another. So.
We've been fighting hard to get out of the city and get out to the woods and let the kids just run around, not worry about masks and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's a struggle. It's hard.
For sure, no doubt about it.
So, well, you got a birthday tomorrow, from what I understand. So happy birthday!
Yes, I do. Yes, I appreciate that.
And
Thank you.
That's a transition to my next question. You guys have been a band for 26 years.
That's crazy.
It just blows my mind. I've been listening to you guys since high school, and I all of a sudden it hit me the other day. I'm like, wow, you guys have been around a long time.
I know, especially when someone's like 13 records. I'm like, oh man, that's nuts.
Yeah. So writing, touring, performing. You guys are in your late 40s, early 50s. What's the most drastic changes that you've noticed as a band now versus back in 2000 or late 90s?
I think we have a lot more patience with things now than we used to when we were young and hot-headed and kind of thought we knew, better than whoever. I mean, when you're in your mid-late 20s and you're first starting out, the chip on your shoulder is pretty big. You got a lot to prove to the world. And I guess after a quarter of a century, you kind of look back on it and you're like, wow, we survived this and made some good decisions here and some bad decisions here. But I mean, you kind of can look back at the 25 years in retrospect and, get some perspective of where you are. And I think we're just, we're in a good spot. I mean, we look at it, we survived most of the most difficult stuff, all the behind the scenes stuff, the stuff that's not that, cool to talk about, when you're dealing with lawsuits, with ex-managers and stuff like that. It's just,
right.
It's literally has nothing to do with art. It's all about the business side of it, but to look back on it, I think these days we're just happy to still be around. We're happy to still be relevant. We're happy to still be able to go into the studio and, create music together that still excites us. When we walk out of the studio and we high five at the end of a record, it's still a cool feeling. I mean, after we've done it so many times, you think you would start to get desensitized to it. And I think we're desensitized to certain aspects of it, but it's still that hairs on your arm standing straight up when you hear, the final mix of a song that you've been working on for 5 or 6 months.
Yeah. Well, just the bond that you guys have to have. I mean, you really haven't had much for lineup changes in this whole time.
No, I mean, Clip stepped out back around 2005 for a few years, and I mean, he's been back. We did Cold Name Memory in, 2009, 2010, so I mean, he's been back for 10 years.
I mean, you guys have been pretty consistent the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just noticed, your first few albums, it seems like you had a little more angst, like you were saying, in your youth, but now, just listening to this last album, Blood and Stone, still heavy, but a more mature sound. It feels like you guys have just got comfortable being together and not having as much angst from your youth. And it brings a more mature, full sound, I think. So I love this album.
That's the nature of, I think, when people ask us all the time, are like, do you ever sit down with an agenda to make a record? And it's very, very few times we've ever done that. Typically, we're like, we know we're going to make a record. We just don't know what kind of a record it's going to turn out to be.
Sure.
Everyone's like, is it going to be the most melodic? Is it going to be the heaviest? Is it going to be the most radio friendly? Is it going to be this, that, and the other thing? And we honestly don't know until it's finished.
Yeah.
But we definitely react to our environment, our surroundings, things we're going through. And I think when we finished the All I See Is War album cycle and started the process for this, we were all in a pretty good headspace, It was like there wasn't a lot of drama going on, the behind-the-scenes junk that, can occupy so much of your time and definitely sway your, the attitude you have when you sit down to write something. I think this was a little bit, I don't want to say relaxed so much, but I think we went into it with no preconceived notions of what the record was going to turn out like. We just knew that we were going to make a record. That was it,
So you said that you guys recorded it back November, December of last year. Do you guys all get together in one place to write and record, or do you send files back and forth, living in different places and stuff?
The writing process is always a little difficult because we're all, other than Morgan and Vinny, we're still in Atlanta, but they're still like an hour and so from each other, So even though they live in the same town, they probably see each other about as often as I see them, or when we get together to go out on tour and stuff like that. So for the most part, we kind of just throw everything, all of our demo ideas, into a Dropbox folder that everyone can share and edit and pass around and make notes and do things like that. And once we've got a handful of demos that are in the box, that's typically when we'll start to get together in pairs, trios, groups of this and that or whoever. I think the first session that we got, we did 2 writing sessions. Clint was actually working on his solo record, God Bless the Renegades, when we had started the writing process for this. So he was kind of straddling the line. He had one foot in his solo record, and then the other foot was like, okay, I've got all these demos that I got to get ready for the Sevendust record. So he was super busy. So the first two sessions that we did was Morgan, LeJean, and myself just getting together to kind of hash through and see where, you know, what's the vibe? You know, when someone starts to open the Dropbox folder and there's 25 ideas in there, you know, I pick 5 that I want to work on, and I guarantee you out of those 5, there might only be one song that Morgan and LeJean agree they want to work on. They usually pick the weird ones, the ones that I'm like, oh man, I really regret putting that in there in the first place, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the way it works, you know. It's like it kind of, you know, you sort of let your guard down and kind of let people in, and then, you know, just try to be as objective as possible, you know.
Sure.
But that's pretty much it. You know, we just start picking through the demos, and everyone starts to make notes as to which ones are favorites, which ones they want to work on, and, you know, we start. And each time we do it, obviously the bar gets raised just a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher.
Well, that's why you keep getting such good albums.
Well, I mean, we try, you know. I mean, the ultimate goal, like I said, is that, you know, the hairs on your arms standing up. You know, when you realize that it all came together. Some songs come together really, really easily, and some other ones, you know, may take a little bit of work. Might be a little bit more of a struggle, but at the end of the day, it's that, you know, that satisfaction you get when you sit back and you look at it and you go, okay, I'm proud of that. Even if nobody else likes it, I'm happy with the outcome of it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So as a longtime fan, I've noticed, you know, you sing, Clint sings, LJ sings, Morgan screams. How do you guys determine who does which vocals when you guys write and perform? Like you guys are just a plethora of talent.
Right.
I don't think Vinny doesn't sing, does he?
He does live. We've actually gotten him into the vocal booth once or twice over the career of the band. I mean, you know, he wasn't too thrilled about it, but he's actually got a great voice. He doesn't do it in the studio nearly as much as we'd like him to, because he can sing really high. He's got like that Michael Anthony quality voice. He's the one who can hit all the super, super high stuff. Like, there's nothing that we can write that he can't handle, so we're just like, okay. He's sort of the Swiss Army knife when we go out and we, you know, do it live. It's like, all right, what can't we sing? What's going to be too difficult to sing over this? You know, how do we marry the parts together and all that? 9 times out of 10 when we're in the studio, typically the guy who'll sing backups on it is either the guy who brought the demo in or the guy who kind of spearheaded, you know, the lyric and melody ideas and things like that. That being said, as soon as we get to the live part of it, it can change drastically. Sometimes what it'll be is it'll just be like, all right, how many things can I actually do simultaneously without crashing the car, right? Because I got to play guitar, and then I got to sing this part, and maybe I should sing the other part, or maybe I should let Clint do this part, and I'll do the easy part. You know, sometimes there's a lot of deliberation as to what's possible and what part can we do together, and then the other guy will typically grab the stuff that is not as user-friendly or maybe just doesn't, you know, is not as easy to sing over a guitar riff or something like that, you know. But it changes all the time. I mean, it's kind of crazy how, you know, one guy will do something on the record and then every time that we do it live, another guy is singing that part.
Well, it's got to be chaotic, but yet at the same time, just knowing that you got those brothers around you to cover for you if, you know, you can go back and forth. You got all these options, you know. That's
the thing, and sometimes it has nothing to do with ease of putting the parts together. I mean, it could be, you know, you're 3.5, 4 weeks into a 6-week tour, and the voice is just not acting that great that night. You know, we'll look at Vinny, or Clint will look at me, or I'll look at Clint, you know, and be like, hey man, you know, can you help and can you pick this up at least until I get my voice back under control? So it is definitely. It's a great scenario to be in, to where anybody at any given point in time can step up to the mic and carry some weight and cover that stuff, you know, because there are a lot of backup vocals. There are a lot of, you know, A and B vocals, you know, multiple voices and things like that. And it's something that has always been a pretty big part of the Sevendust sound. So it's nice having 5 guys that can you know, if need be, they can pull weight. I mean, make no bones about it. Morgan Rose sings. Everyone thinks that he's just the screamer and does all the heavy, you know, screamy stuff, but he sings great. He's got an amazing voice, and he actually sings a lot of harmonies, a lot of the backups. You know,
wow, that's awesome.
People are surprised when they find out that it's Morgan singing, but he enjoys doing it. You know.
Yeah,
so.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So your album Blood and Stone. Tell us how you came up with the name, the title, and then maybe even a little bit about the cover art.
Blood and Stone. I mean, it's talking about us. You know, we're family, we're blood. We've been together for 26 years. I've probably spent more time with the guys in this band than in any other relationship in my life, other than parents. You know, immediate blood. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, the blood is our family. It's the fact that, you know, we've been together and we've been through this, and the stone is kind of representative of you know, our enduring hard-headedness. You know, the fact that people years ago told us, you're never going to amount to anything. You know, it's not original enough. You know, it's not this, it's not that, and we just never really listened.
Yeah.
We said, you know what? We only know how to make. You know, the music that we make is a combination of all five of us. You know, contributing what our strengths are. And, you know, we're not going to try to be something we're not. But we do lean on each other quite a bit, and we know that there's something unique there. You know, there's something very Sevendust to what we do. Not real sure why. I think it's just a combination of the five of us, you know, trying to contribute as much as possible to everything that we put out there. And it's still a cool spot. Like I said, you know, just getting excited when you listen back to songs and you actually still get excited about the stuff that you create. That's it's hard to explain how important that really is.
Yeah.
I've seen bands. I've got a lot of friends who've been in bands who I can kind of see where it gets, you know, played out, burn out. You know, they get to the point where they're not really believing in what they're doing. And if you're in the studio and you're making music that you're not 100% behind or 100% into, it's kind of like, what's the point? You know, right. I mean, from the art perspective, I'd rather not sell a single record, but still make records that satisfy us. And if we have other fans along the way that, you know, pick up on that and agree with us, then that's awesome. But yeah, you know, if you do it for a quarter of a century, you learn quite a bit. And, you know, Blood and Stone, I think, is just representative. It's sort of a snapshot. You know, the artwork, there's 13 stones, 13 songs, 13 records. You know, I mean, we were kind of pointing out the obvious. We're like, okay, are the stones the songs or the records? Yes, they are. They're both. You know?
It's always cool when you can get like a double meaning on something. So
yeah.
So who designed the cover art then? Was that one of you guys?
You know what? I don't know. No, we had God Almighty, I'm spacing on the name. I remember Tim had sent over a bunch of stuff, you know, because we usually send stuff out to a couple of different artists before we get a direction. And some of the earlier stuff that we had gotten, we were just kind of underwhelmed by. I mean, there was some cool art pieces, but nothing that really struck that nerve. And I remember when we got the picture of the Stones, you know, the actual album cover without the logo on it, it was immediate. It was unanimous. All five of us said yes, and that's...
Oh, I loved it.
It doesn't happen all the time where all five of us are like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't change anything. Just put the logo on it, the album title on it, and let it roll. Yeah, and then when we looked at the symbolism in it, you know, with the actual stones, and it was like, okay, they actually dug a little deeper than just a knee-jerk reaction to what we thought about the art, because we thought the art was it just summed it up. You know, it was one of those things that was like, I don't want to change anything. So we went from, this sucks, to, oh, please don't touch anything or change anything about that you know, image. And that was it, you know.
Yeah, it's great. So, let's see here. Let's talk about a couple songs. We got The Day I Tried to Live. You guys covered Soundgarden. Like I wrote in my review, I think it's the best cover I've heard since Disturbed did Sound of Silence. I mean, you guys nailed that one. LJ's vocals, the range, the emotion, it was just great. Have you guys thought about doing like an actual covers album ever? And if so,
I mean,
what songs would you want to cover?
oh man, doing a covers record, to commit to doing a covers record would take a lot, just because we don't do a lot of covers.
Yeah, but after hearing this one, John, I think you guys could pull it off.
Oh, I'm sure we could. It's been one of those things that, anytime that it's been brought up, it's sort of gotten dropped relatively quickly. Not because we're really opposed to it, but just because I think we just sort of get sidetracked by, when we're together these days, typically we're in the studio and we're making music.
Sure.
Used to be we would actually do shows, but, we won't even talk about that right now.
Yeah.
So I think we're usually sort of just sidetracked by the obvious, the elephant in the room. You look at the board and you're like, okay, we got 2 bridges and 3 choruses left to right and this and that and the other thing. But as far as the covers go, I mean, it would be cool, but it might take us a long time before we could agree on what to do,
Yeah.
I think that's the toughest thing, is just finding something that we all as a band agree on,
Yeah.
at the same time in the same place. There's always an argument against it.
Yeah.
And, we never want to do something that somebody in the band isn't super comfortable with, But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, this one was kind of a pleasant surprise, It was like, we sort of said, okay, if it sucks at any point when we're doing this, we're just going to pull the plug on it, We'll attempt it, but, doing a Soundgarden song, paying a tribute to Chris Cornell, I mean, he's one of those iconic singers. I mean, the stuff he could do vocally was just, it was scary how good he was.
Well, that's what, when I first played it, I'm like, boy, this is a bold move. You guys are covering Chris Cornell.
I know. And
then I
John
listened
kept
to it,
going,
and
man, I hope I can do it justice. Well, LJ he was concerned about being able to do it justice, and I was like, dude, you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Absolutely killed it. And it's very Sevendust.
Yeah,
I think it stayed true enough to the original, but I think it's still a very Sevendust twist on it,
That's what makes it a good cover.
Yeah, it wasn't that difficult for us to get to that spot either. It was just kind of like, okay, this is what we would do if we were to play this song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
Yeah. So you guys released the single Blood from a Stone at the end of August, but I want to focus on, I don't know if these are going to ever be released as singles or not, but 2 of my favorites on the album were Criminal and Against the World, and I'm just wondering, could you tell me anything about those 2 songs?
Criminal was actually one of my favorite pieces of music early on. I remember it was sort of one of the ones that was on, it was on everyone's radar, and then it sort of drifted away, and we kind of lost focus and kind of focused on a bunch of the other songs. And then once we actually got, lyrics and melodies for it, I think it sort of surged back up again. It was kind of one of those pleasant surprises. It was like, musically we knew that it was solid, but it's always a guess when you get into the vocal world,
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be the lyrics or the melody or just the delivery or a combination of all 3. And I think that one, once we actually got all the elements in place, was one that, definitely was sort of, I don't want to say at the bottom of the list, but it was something that it just wasn't on anyone's radar as being like, okay, this is one of the stronger songs on the record. But, I've told Clint many times, it's literally stayed probably in my top 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something very, very unique about it in a very Sevendust way. I mean, it definitely sounds like Sevendust, but it sounds like a slightly different side of Sevendust, not quite so much the angst, and stuff like that. And I think Against the World is it's a slightly different twist for us. Typically we'll focus on some of the more negative aspects of relationships, whether it be with a person or a thing or an affiliation or whatever it is, or a lawsuit or whatever we're talking about at that given point in time. And I think Against the World is a slightly more positive twist on things. I mean, there's a lot of dark content on most of our records, but this is one of those moments of hope, and I think it's definitely a cool song for sure. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right. I think that's what drew me to it. It was like, boy, this is heavy, but yet, like, you can hear hope in it, and it's like, man, that's what fans need right now in 2020 with all the the COVID stuff, with the social justice stuff. I mean, it's chaotic here. And
Absolutely.
to hear a song like this just kind of lifts your spirits a little bit. So,
well, that's the thing. Like I said, we're all going through similar things. I mean, you know, the difference in what you're experiencing up there with all of this COVID stuff and the social injustice and whatever, and what I'm dealing with down here in Florida, it's not that much different.
yeah.
You know, I think it's all a similar, you know, just the country just seems very, very divided right now, you know, and I'm not sure if a lot of that division is just. I think some of it is media-based, media-driven, fear-driven. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you can focus on that if you want. I mean, you can watch the 24-hour news cycle 24/7, and you can completely freak yourself out. Or you can actually take a step back and listen to, you know, the new Sevendust record and find some hope. You know, the fact that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not super bright right now, especially for the entertainment business. You know, it's like we have no idea when we're going to be able to get back to a touring schedule or anything like that. But I think people have accepted the fact that, you know, this is something that we're going to have to just be smart about, live with, and until there's a vaccine, you got to use common sense. You got to be careful. You know, don't put yourself at risk if you're in one of those situations. And if you are, you know, I mean, obviously you want to take extra precautions, but I don't know anyone who doesn't have, you know, a mom or a dad with a pre-existing health condition that they're afraid of giving COVID-19 to. You know, it's just part of what this is, you know, and it sucks. But it sucked worse in March when we had a lot less info, you know what I mean? It's now October, and I think we've learned, we've definitely learned what doesn't work. I'll definitely point that out, but you know.
Yeah, my full-time job is I'm a pastor of a small church up here in the Twin Cities, and it's just it's been chaotic. You know, there's no handbook on how to lead a church or business or anything during Corona. You know, and it's like you try to keep everyone in mind as you make decisions and move forward, but man, it's just, you know, it's nice to hear good things in the world and hear some good music. And every time I've been to a show or, you know, you connect with someone over music, it's like it doesn't matter if you're black or white, Democrat, Republican, you know, all of a sudden you have this common bond through the music and you can just kind of forget all the negative stuff going on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, hopefully this Sevendust album will bring people some hope during this crazy year. But so I've seen you guys' live show several times. It's been quite a few years here now, just with raising kids and stuff. But I've seen you in Madison, Wisconsin, where I grew up. I actually saw you guys in Fort Lauderdale once on my honeymoon. Talked to my wife into going to seeing you guys. But now here, this Friday, I get to watch you from my living room. So
there's a first time for everything, right?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the live stream concert coming up here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the weirdest year of weird years, you know, to do something for the first time ever is still something that we're like, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be cool. You know, I mean, it's definitely going to be a different vibe for sure since, you know, when you play live, you're feeding off the crowd and there's not going to be a crowd. You know, just be our film crew or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely looking forward to it for sure. I mean,
so this is not unplugged acoustic kind of thing.
No. This is full blown plugged in. You know, the whole drill. Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Are you sure it's not going to be acoustic?" I'm like, "I am positive. This is not acoustic." I don't even know where my acoustic is right now. So.
Well, I like your guys' acoustic stuff, but I'm glad to hear that this is the full shebang. So
this is the whole shebang, full deal.
What set list? I know you can't tell me the whole thing, but what songs from Blood and Stone can we expect?
I mean, obviously, the singles, you know, anything that we've released, we're going to be doing those for sure. And then the rest of it is all, we've sort of got a general list. I know we're going to make some last-minute adjustments. You know, when we get together, someone will be feeling one thing, someone won't be feeling another thing, and we'll make those game time decisions, you know. But the list that we have together kind of covers everything, and then we'll probably chop down, you know, 5 or 6 to come up with the one that everyone feels super, you know, confident and comfortable with. So it should be cool. It's definitely going to be something different.
Well, I'd like you to just play Criminal and then wink at the camera for me.
Nice.
So no, I'm really looking forward to it. We got our ticket bought here, so we're family's gonna sit down and watch Sevendust Friday night.
Nice. We definitely look forward to it for sure.
Tour. I was going to ask you tour plans for 2021. I know nothing's for sure, but are you guys
Yeah.
hopeful to get on the road at all, or is it not looking good until 2022?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm always the eternal optimist. I'm hoping by springtime we'll be able to do some kind of the spring festival shows.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's outdoor, I think, is going to be doable in one way, shape, form, or another. I don't know how we're going to do the distancing and how they're going to, manage the crowd or whatever, but I'm hopeful that by spring or summer we'll be able to start getting back to something. I don't know if it's going to be, 5-6 nights a week going across the United States or across Europe or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it may be a couple nights, couple days off. We may be doing multiple shows in, a handful of towns. I think it really depends on, where we're at number-wise, in another 5 or 6 months. And just, state to state. I mean, some states seem to have a handle on this better than other states.
Mm-hmm.
In some areas in certain states, I look at the state of Florida, like if you took Miami out of it, our numbers are actually pretty decent. But you throw Miami in the mix, and it's just like so out of whack.
Yeah.
But I'm up here in Orlando, and I'm looking at the numbers going, man, I feel like I'm in a totally different country.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful,
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you guys come through the Twin Cities here in Minnesota sometime soon, and I will be there when you do.
That sounds awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. At some point, we will get back to business as usual.
So, any last comments or on the album or any upcoming things you want to plug in here?
No, other than, hey, we got the record coming out Friday. We're going to do this live stream. Hopefully we don't fall off the stage. It's been a minute. Forgive us. It's been since August of, we did those 4 acoustic shows, which sort of don't count. I mean, they do count as shows, but when you're sitting on a stool, it's a little bit different than when you're running around with an electric guitar on. But come check out the live stream and definitely be looking forward to some kind of tour announcement. I mean, we're doing our best to kind of push things along, and hopefully we can we can get some shows going maybe this spring or summer.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Brutal Planet listeners. Blood and Stone drops this Friday. It's an incredible album. Please pick it up. Support Sevendust. Get your tickets to a live show this Friday. And John, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.